Alright, so in this video we're checking out the DarwinFPV FoldApe4. So this is their 4-inch folding mid-range, long-range quad. This one here is obviously with the O3 air unit in here. They sent me the version without the O3 air unit. You can buy this basically all pre-built, and all you have to do is add your own O3 air unit. As you can see, this is what I did. And it's actually a pretty good value. It's like $129. You can add additional items like batteries, additional props, etc. Obviously that's going to increase the price. You can bundle those in as well if you want. But if you want pretty much the whole, basically bind and fly with the PID tune and everything on there, all you have to do is just, add an O3 air unit, which is something I did. I moved it over from another quad. You can pick this up for $129. It's a pretty good deal. Of course, you can buy it with the O3 air unit already installed. Of course, the price is going to reflect that as well. And they have other versions like with the Wasp camera, I think with the Vista. They have an analog version as well. There's going to be some other versions available to you at different price points. So just check out the link in the description for the version you're interested in. So obviously at this price point, it's oriented for budget conscious consumers and pilots. So they have some pretty, I guess not super high-end parts in here, but they're okay. So we have some 1504 motors in here, and you can probably not read that, but it's 3800 kV. So kind of a bigger kV for 4-inch. Typically, you're going to see these running on a 4S battery, something around like 2900, 3000 kV. But this one is designed for 3S LiPos, and it's because they're using their all-in-one flight controller board that is 2 to 3S only. Does not work on 4S, so don't plug it in 4S battery. The board is not rated for 4S, and that's why you have the higher kV motors on here for 3S setup. And this same board is actually seen in, I think, the Tiny Ape 25 from last year. I did that review like about a year ago. So the ESC on here, I think it only goes up to 25 amps, I believe. It's not super high. And of course it's 3S as well. It does have a built-in Express LRS receiver, but it is SPI based. There is a small UFL connector antenna right there, and it's just a standard sort of whip antenna. And I moved it to the front here, so it's out of the front here like this, away from the O3 air unit antenna. Originally it was coming out of this spot here, and I know that from other quads that I've flown where the receiver antenna is close to the O3 transmission antenna, basically you have some amount of interference and reduction in range. So I moved it, obviously it's just a little micro FL connector, just swung it around to the front and have it come out the front here. I may mod this later in the future to have like one of those T antennas and mount it here in the front with some TP or something like that. So that's probably going to improve the range as well. So that's a pretty cheap modification. You can pick up those T antennas from pretty much anywhere for under like $5, typically $5 or less, depending on which place you get it from. But that's what I'm going to be doing. It does come with a built-in GPS back here. It's like the M8, I believe, series GPS. I'm going to talk about this and where it's located in a little bit later in the video. Not the best location. Reception of getting your satellites and getting a lock. And then you have a mount here for your typical GoPro style finger mounts for some sort of, probably going to want to stick with something like lighter, like an Action 2 or a naked GoPro, something like that. Full-size GoPro could fit on here, but you're going to have a pretty significant reduction in flight time, and it is not going to fly that great. Okay, so before I talk about the frame design and the folding aspect of it, I do want to show you quickly what comes in the box. So you do get a set of spare screws, and you're going to get some of these longer screws, and 2 of them are going to be used to secure the arms so that they don't unfold when you're flying or if you crash. And of course you get a bunch of other nuts and smaller screws, replacement screws in case any of them are lost. And then you get another bag here with a Phillips head screwdriver. You're going to need that for that. Again, I'll show you that later, for the screw that you're going to screw in to secure the arms. And you get, looks like some zip ties and a warranty card or some support card here. So there's a QR code to their support site. And you also get this little cloth bag. You can fold up the drone and stick it in here. That's what the drone came folded up. And these props here were already pre-mounted. These are these dowel folding props, and these are the bi-blade version. They just do come in a tri-blade version, but the bi-blade version is the one that was installed here. This is like the 4019 dowel props. Also, something to note about these props is that they're just using the blade ends and not the center part of the dowel prop, and they have the M2 screw going directly into the motor here. And there's a piece of carbon on top that's holding the folding propeller in place. So it's not exactly the same as you would see in another setup here, but just wanted to point that out. It's a little bit different, kind of interesting. And supposedly these motors are made by DJI. That's what they said on their product page, but I don't know sure if I believe that or not. But they're pretty smooth motors, and the folding prop mechanism works as expected. Okay, so just a summary here of the frame itself. So the arms are going to be 4 millimeters thick, front and back. The top plate's 1.5 millimeters thick, and the bottom plate's 2 millimeters thick. And so you can see here, because of the way this is designed to be folded, you have a staggered arm design here. So you have the front arms are a little bit higher than the rear arms. So not the best in terms of airflow, because when you have these props expanded out like so, I'll show you that there's a little bit of an overlap here. They're very, very close together. Obviously they're not gonna hit each other, but I did notice some sort of strange resonances. It didn't necessarily mean it was louder, but I could hear it when it was flying around. And now I do have a narrated flight. I'll link that in the video description. You can listen to it yourself, but it does not really come out in the audio that well. I'm trying to come up with ways of recording the narrated flights with a better audio from the props. These aren't super loud, but I could tell because of the way that there's a little bit of an overlap here in the way the props are set up. You can kind of hear it. It's different. It definitely sounds a lot different than some of the other 4-inch quads that I've flown with these same props, just because of the way the arms and the props are set up. Not necessarily sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something I noticed, and I could hear it because of the way these props are laid out. I'm not 100% sure what to make of it yet, but you can definitely hear it in the flight, although you're probably not going to hear it in the recorded stuff that I made. And this is not very loud at all, because it's not super heavy. I'll show you the weight here. It's under 250 grams with the 1100 3S batteries I flew with, and I'll talk about the battery here in a second. All right, so here's how much this weighs. I got through the screws on that I took out, and then no battery, it's 162.2 grams, and then with this 3S 1100, we're at 227.4. So I imagine their 1150 milliamp hour battery that they're selling on their site for this drone is probably going to weigh a little bit more, so quite closer to 250 grams. I'm 100% sure if there's any other batteries, like maybe like around 1300 milliamp hours, that might get this just below 250. If you know of any battery, let me know in the comments. But in order to fold it, you're going to have to remove these screws. These screws were not installed from the factory because the drone was folded up. So we'll take these out, and I'll fold it up, and I'll show you how this thing folds up. So not terribly difficult to install or remove the screws. It takes literally 10 seconds to do. It's just I think some people are going to complain about that because it is going to be something that you're going to have to do if you want to make sure that the arms don't fold by accident. And that'll happen if you crash and hit the arm like this. Now, I actually flown this a few times without the screws in there. I obviously didn't crash it, but I didn't notice that the arms were loose at all, because the way that they're set up here, it's really hard to see, but the arms are kind of, they're half of the arm, and in the center is shaved off on each side so that they kind of lock into each other like a puzzle. and so there's a lot of friction there, and when they actually lock into place. So these are actually not that easy to move. And there's also a little like metal piece right here. You can kind of see in those holes where it'll kind of lock into place. You'll hear it. If it's not very loud, but that kind of guides you as to where the arm should be to be in the correct position. And I think there's also on the, they're also there on the back arms as well. So go ahead and fold this up. So we're going to fold up the front arms first. So these go backwards like this. So, and also something else to note, I forgot to mention, I'm not sure if you're going to see this. You can kind of see like the bottom plate here is kind of shiny, but the arms are kind of like a matte finish. So there's something, I think they have coated these arms because they know that people are going to grab these, and so I guess they made these a little bit softer. You can feel it, that it's kind of plasticky material that I think they spray coated this, and you can kind of see where on some of the spots where I landed, the concrete, some of it's getting scraped off here on the edges when you land, so just be aware of that. I did have some foam on here. I lost a piece over here, and I put some foam here as well so that it could land on something softer. But yeah, and I noticed that there's some coating on these arms because they know that people are going to be grabbing them with their fingers, and so I guess that was the purpose of that. So I'm going to put the front arms in like so. They're gonna just go into the sides like this, and then we're going to move the back arms. Let's see here. So then these will move forward. They'll unlock like so. Okay, so now I can show you this here. So you can see how the arm is like this, and half of the, like 2 millimeters that's shaved away from one side, and then on the other side is this part has been shaved off. So when you fold up the arms and lock them in, they kind of slide over each other, and there's a lot of friction there. So it's not that easy to get these to unfold. Obviously, in a crash, in a hard crash, they will unfold. But they just be aware that if you just fly around and you don't lock the arms with the screws, if you don't crash, they're probably going to be fine. I didn't notice any. It just felt like a regular drone to me in the air. I didn't notice any vibrations or anything like that. And then this is what it would look like folded down, and then you just move the props in like that. And then you're going to have to do something with the antenna. You're going to slide this out a little bit like so, and then you're going to fold that down and then stick it under the battery strap, and then you can stick it into the bag. So so this is what it looks like. And flying it around, you can hear in the narrated flight, it doesn't sound really that different from a regular drone. It doesn't feel any different. The pit tune's fine. It was very windy the day I flew this, and you're going to see some shakes in the footage, but there's no Jello. So I was kind of surprised. I was expecting a little bit of Jello from these TPU mounts here. They seem to have designed it so that the camera isn't touching the top plate or the bottom plate or the standoffs, and there's a little bit of a gap there between the TPU and the standoff there. So other than the wind shaking the drone run, which you can see in the goggle footage, once you stabilize the footage using gyroflow, all the shakes go away. And at least in the lighting that I flew it in, without any ND filter, I didn't see any Jello at all. I did try to fly it a little bit kind of more aggressively at the end, but still no Jello. It's hard to say, on a really bright sunny day with no ND filter, if there's a lot of wind, if you'll see Jello or not. I haven't had a really bright sunny day in a while. I had to wait 4 days to fly this because it rained for 4 straight days, and finally there was a little bit of a break in the weather where the sun came out a little bit. I was able to fly it even though it was super windy and super cold. But yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously I'm going to have some more videos in this one probably in the future. I don't know exactly when, but yeah, I'll have more footage in this one, of course. Now, a little bit of a discussion on the flight time. I did fly with this 1100 milliamp hour 3S GNB. This is pretty old. It's got several hundred flights on it. So the actual capacity of this battery is probably in the neighborhood of like 900 to 950 milliamp hours. I didn't fully test the capacity of this battery in a while, but it's definitely diminished because it's older. And I flew this for about 6 minutes from 4.35 volts to about 3.9 volts. So under load, when I was flying around, I got down to like 3.7-ish volts, and then it recovered to about 3.9 volts at rest. So basically a little bit above storage voltage, going from full charge to about storage charge. I got about 6 months on this battery. And when I fully charge this battery back up again, I put in about 600 milliamp hours back in. So I could have definitely taken more capacity out of this battery because I was too cold and it was too windy to continue to fly it. But I can probably get, squeeze out another 300 milliamp hours, going down to maybe 3.5 volts or so. It kind of depends. Obviously, the more you're willing to stress the battery and take it to its limit, the more flight time you're going to get. But at the same time, you're going to reduce the longevity of the battery, which I tend to not do. I'm kind of conservative. So typically, when they say like they're advertising on their 1150 milliamp hour 3S battery, they're advertising a 20-minute flight. So that's on a brand new battery, and they're probably taking that battery all the way down to the point to where the drone falls out of the sky, which is not good for the battery overall. If you do that continuously, you're probably limiting that battery to perhaps 100 flights. So realistically, on that 1150 milliamp hour battery that they're advertising a 20-minute flight, I would say to fly more conservatively, and you'll get a good 15-minute flight and preserve the longevity of that battery if you fly it in that manner. Now, they did not send me that battery, so I can't confirm anything in terms of how that battery performs. That's probably the testing that they've done, but typically when they do their flight time testing, they take the battery pretty much to the point where it drops out of the sky and the battery is completely dead, which is generally not good for the battery in terms of its longevity. All right, so another note on this GPS location here, I was not ever able to get a lock when the O3 air unit was at full power. So I'd actually power this GPS off without the O3 air unit powered up, and I could get a lock, obviously, without this powered on. I can get maybe like 10 satellites, 12 satellites. As soon as it's powered up and went to full power, the lock is lost, and it would hover around 6 satellites. So this is not a good location for the GPS, and I'm not sure why manufacturers continue to do this. I think for analog systems and like Vista, Walksnail, maybe HG0, this is probably fine. But for O3, for whatever reason, and I think Walksnail has the same problem. It's maybe too much power. It blocks that signal from the satellites up in space. So I'm going to be moving this piece over here, because I'm not going to be putting a GoPro on here because I'm using the O3 system. And I know that for a fact that when you do that, you're going to get plenty of satellites. So I'll probably make another video regarding this, put it up on my second channel when I mod this later if you want to see the results. But basically, if you get this and you're using the O3 system, I would recommend moving the GPS receiver from the back here and moving it to this location here. You're going to have full lock right away. It does have GPS rescue enabled out of the box, but I was never able to test it because I can never get a lock when I'm flying it around with the O3 air unit powered up. So I'm going to have to move this over here. But yeah, if you're wondering about GPS rescue, you're going to have to move it over here if you're using the O3 system. Okay, so that's all I got to say about this for now. I'm going to have more content on this probably later. And so far I like it. I think it flies fine. Interesting design, not super thrilled in the way that the arms are set up here, but I think this is kind of the only way you can do it to get it sort of this compact size. And if that's more important to you versus the arm configuration, then this is probably the only way to go. If you have an idea as to a better way to do this, sure, let me know down in the comments below, and maybe they missed something. I'm not sure, but perhaps someone out there with a more keen eye on frame design could chime in there and let me know. by all means, chime in down in the comments and let me know what you think would be a better setup for the arms, and yeah, maybe they'll incorporate that into the next version of this. But overall, I think it flies fine. You get good footage out of this, nice and compact. You know, you can stick it in this bag here, throw it into your backpack or whatever. This is obviously for people that are very, very space conscious and don't want their drone taking up a lot of space. And for, you know, obviously probably for travel. That's what I'm going to keep this for. And yeah, that'll be it for this one. Got any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.